so that we can have a proper recording without all the BS. Okay, good. Hi, welcome. I wanted to share something here because I just sent out my weekly email early. Usually it goes out on Sunday. I sent it out today, and because I want to get this information out as quickly as possible to people. There's a lot of important stuff that we're all going to need help with. I know I've already encountered losing clients. I lost a few people who are in the subscriptions that I have, and I've lost a couple of clients who have asked me to suspend services, while this is all going on. So I can only imagine others are experiencing the same thing. And I've been through a few financial storms. I left out the first part that I usually put in front of the word storm there. I'll keep this PG-13 for today. But anyway, I've weathered these things in the past financially. Obviously, I've never experienced coronavirus before. And so I'm hoping to share some inspiration and some education by way of helping others. Whatever happens, there's a lot of support out there, a lot of people banding together, helping one another. A buddy of mine posted the other day on Facebook that he's now out of work because of this and doesn't really have any savings and didn't think he had enough food to last till Sunday. And a bunch of people banded together and sent him some money to help him out. Make sure that he's got food on his table. So if you need help, just reach out, ask for help. People will give it, in whatever way they can. Not everybody can afford to give money. Maybe they've got some supplies, and maybe it's just other kinds of support. But the next thing that comes up, obviously, underneath all of this is, cash flow management. We want to manage cash flow. And I wanted to start here today doing this with a very simple way that if you have no money to spend on any apps or anything, you don't need to worry about that. You can do it for free using Google Sheets, which is free with a Gmail account, which if you don't already have a Gmail account in 2020, I'm kind of surprised. But if you don't, just go to google.com and get a Gmail account, right? And then people like Matthew and myself have G Suite. So and that's just paid Google. So what I'm going to be showing you is in my paid Google account, but rest assured, everything I'm showing you is exactly the same as what you'll get if you do it with G Suite or with free Google with Gmail. You get my point.
Seth, I'm a Microsoft person, and I still have a Google
Gmail
account.
You kind of have to these days because even if it's not your primary choice of tools, somebody somewhere, if they haven't already, is going to be sharing something with you, from that platform, right? So I think it's important at the very least. Everybody should have it. Go get it. Okay. So, and post your comments. I'm going to be checking back. Matthew joined in so he could help me. And now for my shared screen, which I'm just kind of checking in here on the feed. There it is. Okay, so I'm at google.com. If you're logged into your Google account or your Gmail account, you'll know for sure because at the top right, you'll see your little icon there in the corner. See a little picture of me. And if you click on this little like gray Rubik's Cube looking thing, you'll find Sheets as one of the options. The other thing, and I love showing people this, is as long as you're in Chrome, which is, of course, Google's product, you can just type sheets.new, and you'll come up with a brand new blank Google Sheet. And yes, of course, everything I'm going to show you here, you could also easily do in Excel. The reason specifically I'm showing it in Google Sheets is because, again, I want to show everybody the sort of free option for how to do this. Carmen says, when I met Seth, I had lost all my passive income that took 25 years to create. I learned a lot from Seth to get me back into shape. Yes. Thank you, Carmen, for saying that. Okay. Cash flow. I can't type today at all. Management. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, let's call this first tab balances. And that's what you want to do. You want to inventory the cash on hand. So you want to go online, go onto your bank accounts. I don't care about credit card accounts right now. We're not looking at what you owe. We're looking at what you own, right, in the bank. So let's go with, let's just keep it simple and say you have 3 bank accounts, right? Let's say this one's got 1,500. This one's got 5,000. That's a lot. 5,000. And let's say this one's got $250, whatever.
Bank two's mine, by the way. Bank two's mine.
That's yours? Okay. All right. You can have it. You can have it. I'll send you the spreadsheet right afterwards. Okay. Total cash on hand. You might also want to put an as of date here, right? Control colon, by the way, stamps the date in there. Works in Excel too. It just grabs the date from your computer's clock and sticks it in the cell, right? That way you know that when we got these balances together. Now, we'll come back to this. Let's go create another tab, add a sheet, and this one is going to be income and expenses. Okay, first let's look at income. Okay, and then we might have like source. One, maybe you have multiple sources of income, right? You might have a paycheck coming in still, hopefully, and maybe you have other sources of income, right? So you can list them all. Bottom line is just make the space for them, because the other thing you might start doing now is thinking about ways to make money working from home, right? That's why I've got a lot of content I'm working on talking about how bookkeeping has frequently been written up as the #1 way to make money working from home. And I've certainly got the resource to teach you how to do that with Bulletproof Bookkeeping. No, it's not cheap, but it's pay once, it's lifetime access, and now you have the resource, and if you have the downtime, you have time to start going through it. So that was kind of a little bit of a shameless plug. But the point is, there are resources now, and this is the time to do it. Start getting the skills so you can pick up the clients. A lot of companies are going to need to cut back on their bookkeeping services. Like I said, I've already experienced a couple of those myself. And the email I sent out today addresses that. And by the way, why I think it's a terrible mistake for companies to stop their bookkeeping services. So if you're not on my email list, let me know. But you would have gotten the email by now. So if you didn't, then you're not. But I talked about that, and I'll come back to that. But I want to stay focused on the cash flow management thing for now. But my point is, you might have other sources of income, or you might start thinking about how to create other sources of income, right? In my recent series I've been doing on tools for working remotely, I mentioned there's sites like Upwork that you can go onto and fill out the profile and just think in terms of what skills you can offer. And even if you are a full-time employee right now, while you're at home and down and not getting paid, or maybe your company is nice enough to pay you while you're home, you can still think about insulating yourself from this kind of thing by finding other ways to bring in income. Upwork, Flex Jobs, and there's a few others. If you Google freelance jobs, you'll find a bunch of sites where you can go and start thinking about how to bring in other sources of income. All right, simple formula equals sum open parentheses. So we can total up our income. Okay, I think I went too high up on that one. Yeah,
And again, for people watching, that's just literally making it towards adding each of the different ones. So whatever value puts in is going to automatically add it below for them.
Right. So now if I say, let's say I still have a paycheck coming in, God willing, right? $1,000 a month, right? We're looking at monthly right now, right? And then what I did was I just put in the date of March 1st. And let's just format, because I had originally put a numeric value in there, so it's not formatting it very nicely. So let's just go to, this is one area where I feel like they could improve. You have to go a really long way to get into like more date and time formats, but it knows what
OCD moment.
What?
It's an OCD moment.
Something like that. Now let's get these looking like actual numbers. So let's say we have source one is $1,000 a month, and let's say we have something else for $500 a month, and we'll leave it at that, right? Now I want to schedule this out to, let's say, December, right? I just want to look from now until the end of the year. Hopefully by the end of the year, we're out of this, they've got solutions, and we won't have to worry too much about this anymore. It'll just be the catch-up plans for what we need to do about what happened while we were kind of down, right? So there's a cool formula. This Excel came out with it first, and I figured out earlier today that it's now available in Google Sheets. And Google Sheets is pretty good like that. They're trying hard to keep up with Excel. So equals eDate. And notice it always gives you the help tips, right? So if I confirm that, then it tells me what it needs. It needs the start date and then the number of months we're going to increment by. So the start date, of course, is to my left. I can just click there. Comma 1. I want to add 1 month in each successive column. Control C, shift right arrow, paste that out. I've got it out to December, right? And I can change the formatting, make this look prettier, but in the interest of time right now, I'm going to skip that. Okay, and then I just copy this formula for the total income all the way out to the right, and maybe we make it look a little prettier by doing some color coding, right? And now I have expenses. Okay, so we'll say groceries, right? Definitely need some of those. Mortgage or rent, whatever you're paying for the roof over your head, quite literally.
And this is the important area, right? I'm sure you're going to talk, like, when we're writing down our expenses, we want to make sure we're I always say go above and beyond. Make sure, put everything you have as an expense. Anything you might think may be expense, maybe do a different section of it, but don't put the time and energy. Write every expense down. Don't
Yeah.
shortchange yourself.
Yep, take your time. In fact, because you said that, Matthew, you triggered the memory I thought of earlier that I wanted to make sure I covered. We want to list our credit card payments here. It doesn't matter about how much is interest versus principal. Right now, we're just looking at cash flow. So we just need to see how much money do I need to pay on my credit cards each month, right? And you may want to think about just conserving cash. It copied it down automatically. I meant to do that, right? So let's say we have a few credit cards here. All right, and let's say the groceries. I'm just gonna pull numbers out of the sky, right? So let's say it's about $600 a month. Let's say your house payment is $2,000 a month. Whatever that is, and you want to. The best way to do this, by the way, I did do that here, is once you establish it in the current month that we're looking at, use a formula. I'll go through that more slowly. Just say equals and point one to the left, right? I used my arrow key. Of course, you can click with your mouse. Now I can copy that down and copy that across, but that's not the only reason. It's also helpful because then if later on in June something changes, let's say I start realizing by next month because prices are going up because everybody's hoarding supplies, maybe I need to up this to like $750 a month. So I just change the 1 month and everything, of course, updates across to the right because I've set it up with a formula.
So great example is because of, like, in California, we have the rent control at the moment, right? So there may be a scenario where maybe for the next month or so, people may not have a rent expense, but that rent is going to be owed still. So that's a great example of you could then boost up the following months if you had to get it caught up.
Right. And so let's just say, hopefully you don't have too many credit cards, but let's say you want to plan on paying $250 a month each to these credit cards, right? So same idea. And like Matthew said, it's really important to be very thorough about this, right? And by the way, if you're not sure, if you're worried, let's also set these up. If you're worried about, missing something, go onto your bank's website. Every bank will let you download a CSV file of your banking activity. Get it for the last 6 months, right? And then you can start looking through that, sort it by description, and you start getting a sense of the things that you're paying for every single month that you have been paying for out of your bank account, right? So that way you can start getting a sense, because that will help you, identify things that need to go on here, right? It also may help you identify things that, frankly, you need to cut out. There may be, look, the video that I uploaded just today called Lockdown Accounting, Managing Your Expenses, I talked about how by doing a simple process, which the video demonstrates how to do. It's the newest video on my YouTube channel as of today. So if you're wondering, go there. And of course, if you ask me, I'll send you the link. But what you'll want to do is if you start running a report, if we're talking about a business, you can go into QuickBooks Online and running expenses by vendor summary and total it by month. Look at it for the last 6 months to a year. When I've done this with clients, I've almost immediately identified bare minimum $500 to $1,000 in annual expenses that we can immediately eliminate, because there are always things we're paying for that we just don't need or use anymore and haven't in a long time. But there are these little things we're paying $20 a month for that it's like, that we just forget about or ignore because it doesn't seem like it's much money. But $20 a month is $240 a year. So all these little things start adding up pretty quickly, right? So bottom line, be thorough. And then at the bottom here, we're going to get total expenses, right? And expenses is, I'm using that term very loosely. It's total expenditures or cash outflows is really what we're getting at here, right? And again, I'm keeping it really simple. There's no subtotals. I'm just getting it laid out, because now we want to look at the cash flow. And this is where we go back to the balances. So starting balance. So this is going to be, let's do net cash flow from above. Starting balance is what we started the month with. And ending balance, what we're going to end the month with based on the above. So for the net cash flow, it's just a sum. It's a simple, take the total income minus the total expenses. Okay? And by the way, one thing you can do, just to make this even clearer as to what's what, is instead of doing these as positive numbers, do them all as negative, right? That way it's this plus this, which would be a negative number. I'm not going to go back and do that right now, but just to give you a sense of something you can do to make the formula writing and the whole thing really clear, because you'll see negative numbers mean cash outflows, positive numbers mean cash inflows, right? Now, in the first month, the starting balance is going to come from what we started out doing, right? So we're going to say equals, go over to balances, and I'm just going to grab that total. Okay, the ending balance is obviously whatever I started with plus the net cash flow. So it's the sum of the two above. So if I started with 6,750, but my net cash flow is 2,100, I end the month off with 4,650. Okay, and then over here, what I'm going to do is, after that, every month's starting balance is the other month's ending. So equals 4,650. Okay, and then this I can copy over, and then from here on out, it's the same across the board.
So really what he's doing a lot of the time is when you take the time to figure out the formulas or the variance in the formulas to begin with, it makes it to where you can then copy and paste them across the other columns to make it easier for you to get the results you want.
Right, and to get there faster. And now you can see very clearly, oh crap, at the rate I'm going to run out of money in June, right? So now the other thing we can do is we can put in conditional formatting, right? Conditional formatting. So if the cell is less than 0, okay, I want like a nice red fill and like a yellow font so that it kind of really warns me, and maybe make it bold and done. So you can use conditional formatting to give yourself visual cues, right? So now, of course, and again, I'm just throwing numbers in here, so hopefully this isn't anything near what your situation is going to look like. I see a comment there that says, is this sheet available to purchase? I'm happy to do that, but better still, honestly, and I didn't even think about this, because honestly, I was thinking, I literally just showed you how to create it, but if you don't want to create it, here's what I would suggest, honestly. On my website, I have a basic Excel course. The last lesson teaches exactly what I just showed you here.
Cool.
It's worth it to get the Excel course because there's a ton of other stuff you're going to learn. And then there is a download of a template which will include this in Excel format. So honestly, I think that's the better, smarter, faster way to go on this, right? But this is, what I wanted to give you here, which I think I've now accomplished. And of course, I'm happy to answer anybody's questions. And hey, Hector, thank you. I see his comment. Good stuff. I wanted to give you a quick way to lay out something fairly simple so that at least you've got the template. If you need to add more lines in here, the way I've laid it out, just insert one above. By the way, once you do that once, Control Y will repeat that action. So very easy to add more lines as you need them. And of course, what we'd really want to see here is maybe more like 5,000 a month at income, right? Because at 5,000 a month in source one, now I'm no longer at risk of running out of money, although I'm sure we have a lot more expenses to fill in here, right? Yeah, health insurance and car payments and all kinds of other stuff. So like I said, the best thing to do is go onto your bank account, download 6 months worth of activity in a CSV file, and then you can start sorting and filtering and totaling there to see what your spending habits have been, and use that as a way to drive this. And then as you go forward, what you'll want to do, this is calculating what we expect the starting balance each month to be. But obviously when we get to April 1st, you may want to go in here and key in what your actual starting balance is on April 1st going into that month, so that as you spend money, you can kind of, compare and see, what did I really spend on groceries, right? And you can do your own little variance analysis on this, just to make sure we're keeping on top of our spending. And obviously, the way I laid this out, especially with groceries in there, is based on a personal budget. The concept works the same exact way, whether it's a business or personal. The only difference is going to be the line items that we have in the descriptions here are going to change, right?
Now, Seth, real quickly, just because I make sure people are familiar with it, can you demonstrate how if you go to row 17, you can add extra rows in? And when you do that by adding a whole row in, the formulas adjust to where you can add extra space and you're not impacting the structure of what you've already created.
Yes. So in fact, a minute or so ago, I did add some extra rows down here, right? And so if you right click, you can say insert one above, and then just keep hitting Control Y until you have the rows that you need. And then notice with the extra rows in there, I can come in here and I can add another expense line for, let's say, $1,000. And so, and of course, everything updates, cumulatively even. And now when I copy that over, of course, it's going to get worse and worse as I go to the right and add more $1,000 monthly items in, right? So now my ending cash balance at the end of the year is 15,750, just so you can see the difference, right? If I delete this, it's 25,750. Control Z like zebra to undo, puts it back in there. Some other expense.
And again, those are the common shortcuts that work across Microsoft and Google, which is what's so cool about it.
Yep. Oh, and Tiffany, no worries, no worries. I'd hate to have you purchase a template when I think I can offer you something much more robust and powerful along these lines. But if you do just want the template, I'll just email me and I'll work something out with you. Probably just give it to you. I don't want to, make money off of this kind of thing. But I would encourage you, if you do want to learn how to do stuff like this, that my course is an amazing resource. And like I said, if there's ever been a time to spend time and maybe a little bit of money on e-learning, it's now, because a lot of us have more time because we're slowing down because people are canceling or suspending or pausing services with us. So, and like I said earlier, if you don't get my email every week, let me know. I'll forward you the one I sent out today, and then opt in, because anybody who knows me who gets my emails will tell you that it's not just a bunch of BS about what I'm selling. I weave that stuff in, but I always share a message of the message that I feel is a message of depth and weight about things you can do to improve a lot of areas of life, not just your business. So anyway, again, I'll stick around a little bit more to see if anybody else has any questions. I'm just looking here in the Facebook feed. Let's see if there's any on my personal Facebook, because that's where I kind of first talked about doing this.
It's a good resource to share. Thank you very much. I mean, it really gives people a very quick and easy way to evaluate their own scenario without having to try to find some crazy fancy tool to do it. So,
well, and the key to this is, what I've always found whenever I've needed to and I've sat down to do something like this, no matter how grim the situation might look, I still feel a lot better, because by doing this, I feel like I'm getting a handle on it. And at least then I can see, and at least then I can be proactive and say, okay, well, if based on what I've lost income-wise, I don't have enough money to last past another month or two, then I can, now I have it right in front of me, and I can start seeing what expenses can I eliminate? What are the non-essentials that I can eliminate or put on pause until the situation improves? And so, like I said at the beginning, I'm going to be putting out videos on this kind of stuff, but also on the other side of it, which is going to be, sort of ways to get creative about bringing in money during this time by offering resources to help people. And I'd encourage you, like I know, Matthew, you've been doing, is help support small businesses. My favorite thing that I read recently came from Allison Ball from Intuit, where she made a suggestion that if you have, let's say you're an accountant or bookkeeper and you have clients who are hair salons, have them create some kind of a promotion where you send out an email blast or use social media if they don't have an email list, and say, look, when this all blows over, you're all going to want to come in all at the same time, and we only have so many chairs in the salon, so I'm going to offer you, VIP scheduling. You pay now, right, and I'll reserve your spot, and we'll be able to, and we'll be able to get you in ahead, those of you who want to and can afford to pay for something like that now. So you do some kind of a VIP thing. The email that I sent out today, I talked about this, again, I think it's a big mistake to pause your accounting or bookkeeping services, because it's just going to be a mess that's going to have to get cleaned up later, and you're going to have to pay for that. It's probably going to cost you more. I'm assuming a lot of business owners are probably thinking that they'll just turn the switch back on and we'll just go back to our normal monthly fee and it's business as usual. It's like, no, you've got to pay for the catch-up work now. So what I suggested in my email, and again, if you don't get it, let me know and I'll forward it to you, and I'll encourage you to opt in more permanently. But what I suggest is you can go to a more limited plan, right? While we're in this crunch, I'll do for $250 or $350 a month, I'll just keep your bank fees up to date. That's all. And I'll reconcile your bank statements. No other follow-ups, no analysis, none of the other stuff we might have been doing. If you have payroll to still run during this time, hopefully you do, you can do your own payroll if you're a business owner. It's easy enough to do. right? So
Right.
you can, business owner can take over a lot of the responsibilities in the interim, and then as the accountant or bookkeeper, we can just maintain the bank feeds for you. And again, with probably very little exception, unless you have like 500 bank accounts, probably easy enough to do for any of us to manage the bank feeds for 250, 350 a month just to keep it going. Then when this all blows over, as a way of catch up, you can pay the difference, right, over the whatever it was, over how many months, whatever the difference was, and we'll do the cleanup or catch up work for that. Or it may be that keeping the bank feeds up to date was enough that we're willing to then turn the switch back on, go back to the normal rate, and do whatever little bit of stuff might need to be done to fill in whatever gaps might remain in the bookkeeping at that point, following up on categorized transactions, things like that. Because I literally mean nothing more than bank feeds. So even if there's uncategorized stuff, just we can run that report later on when the time comes and we're back to the normal monthly fee and get that stuff cleaned up. Right.
And that's again because, like you're talking about today, that's more of a focus on the cash flow aspect of it. Things that there's two aspects that you talked about with Allison Ball's suggestion as well as yours. The thing that people need to recognize is we are all in this together, yes, but just because there are certain policies coming into place to help protect, utilities, rent, everything else, it doesn't mean those things are no longer owed. This, in a sense, those services have been provided, but we are all working together to find ways to extend that runway so we can make it through this difficult time together. That's the point of why it's so powerful to go out and buy gift cards for companies, to do these different things, help keep your local economy strong as much as you can, and we'll get through this faster.
Yep. Yep. And another idea that I had, and again, I shared this in I don't want to spoil the whole email, but I'll share one more thing because it's just related. I mentioned about the hair salon, which was Allison Ball's idea, but for companies that are suspending or maybe putting their bookkeeping services on slowdown, same idea. Everybody's going to want to come back and get caught up all at once. So I'm going to suggest to you that as a bookkeeper or accountant, you can offer VIP spots for who's going to get caught up first when that time comes. And if clients are willing to pay a little bit of extra money, you can put them at the top of the list, prioritize them, and say, you'll be the first one I catch up on when the time comes. So again, there's ways to get creative. There's lots of ideas out there. If you read my email, and then the other thing, and I'll end with this because now I got to get back. I got a whole bunch of videos that I plan on working on to get rolled out for everyone. That's literally how I'm spending my time. I'm just producing a ton of content right now, both for the upcoming Bulletproof bookkeeping relaunch that I'm doing, and for this, cash flow and expense management kind of stuff. So I spoke with my friend Mike Milan this morning, and he has his own company now called Elevate Financial, and he has this program he has called Clear Path to Cash. So we're going to do a Clear Path to Cash workshop.
Nice.
And he and I are going to deliver this as a 3-week series. So we're going to do an hour a week for 3 weeks, and we're going to charge $350 for it. Mike and I are meeting on Monday to hash out the outline and establish what content we're going to be covering in each of these courses. And yes, of course, they're going to be recorded. And yes, of course, the recording is going to be made available. And yes, of course, after that, we're going to just automate and syndicate that and sell that. And I'm sharing this with you, not just because I'd love to have you sign up because it'll help me and Mike, but also because I want you to think about your version of that. What can you do? What can you offer as a way of bringing money in for yourself while at the same time helping other people get through this? Because that's the way we need to do it. We need to, so instead of me running out of food and money and saying, hey, can somebody please help me? I'd rather bring in money by offering something of value, while I'm losing clients. And let's face it, I'm going to lose clients before most people because I'm more expensive than most people, right? So, frankly, this is, and very transparently, this is my way of helping me to weather this storm is I'm not asking for any handouts. I'm willing to offer valuable resources for you that will help me weather this storm. And in turn, I'm going to be able to help you do the same. And I also announced that I'm offering a 20% discount on all of my life support plans. So all of my one-on-ones, my Slack support, 20% off across the board. All that's in the email that I sent out today. So go check your inbox. And if you aren't on my list, let me know. I'll forward it to you and then get on my list.
Way to be proactive. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. It's a great investment in ourselves and our clients. So thank you, Seth.
You got it. And if you do want this Google Sheet template, let me know, and I'll work it out with you, Tiffany, and anyone else. But like I said, I'd honestly rather see you just sign up for my Excel course. I think I get so much more value out of that because you'll learn how to build it among a bunch of other things. And I just think it's worth it to spend the money with me on that.